Green is the new gold. Our 18-hole Niklaus design, award-winning golf course and clubhouse will leave you green with envy. We don't just say, we do. It's the Stain City way.
Good afternoon and welcome to Real Talk with me, Anele. Today, I'd like us as a nation to get into the crux of an issue described by education officials as an alarming crisis that has become a major social challenge, not only for the individuals affected, but also for the country as a whole. This is teenage pregnancy. The stats keep rising. A 2013 survey put the rate of teen pregnancies at a staggering 99,000 for that year alone. And since then, the number of pregnant teens has risen. Yes, we talk of abstinence and contraception, but is that enough to help young people understand what healthy relationships look like, whether they're sexual or not? What about STIs? What about HIV and AIDS? Well, that is what the panel and I want to unpack today, because more than it being an issue of statistics, it's a societal concern. I have with me Maureen Mtimkulu, comprehensive sexuality educator, George Moroasui, representing the South African Council for Educators, and Bongeka Cutshwa, project coordinator at MMOHO, an advocacy organization for pregnant teens. Welcome to the show. Big, you guys have got titles, I like it. It means I call the right people. Maureen, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Whose issue is this? Is it simply an issue of, doesn't matter what you say to teens, they're not going to listen, and the more they have rights, the more they just don't listen?
Anele, I'm firstly going to start by saying we are not blaming anyone at the present moment. What we are saying is we need everyone to be on board. We need to support our teens. We need to give them all the information that they need to actually make informed decision with regards to their future.
What are we missing though? Because surely we're missing something.
Yes, we do. Well, from my experience, I think with regards to what teenagers are being taught at schools, that needs to be improved. Hence, that is where we come as an organization to say, but we are offering our help to say we can improve what is being taught in schools. Because what we have realized is that so far, what teenagers are being taught in schools is just about HIV. Yes, we get that HIV is one of the key issues, but HIV is not the only thing that teenagers have to know about their sexuality. There are so many issues and topics around what they need to know with regards to what they do when it comes to their sexuality. So we need, it's not just one element, it's different elements that need to actually be worked around to say, but how can we help our young people in the country?
Well, you nodding as well when the school things come up. Every time you say schools, I see you nodding. So this is why I'm going to come to you. I'm going to have to ask you to, offer your 2 cents there. What about schools is not going right, and that is adding to the problem that is teenage pregnancy?
I think, young people are often not given enough vocal, ability. They don't get that vocation to say that, what, these are the issues that we're facing. Can we talk about things that can assist us in addressing the issues that face, what we face in our daily lives, whether it be at school, whether it be in communities, and let it not be the adults that are like, okay, I was once a child, this is what was happening, so hence, it's a size fits all. It's like things have changed, times change all the time. So can we speak to young people to say, how can we help you as young people?
Actually, I was speaking about this earlier this week, where I was saying the worst thing we've done for the youth in South Africa is instill this fear of adults in them, and we misinterpret it as respect.
Yeah.
Whereas if a child fears you, they don't respect you, and there's never going to be an open communication between the two of you. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
George, I understand that the organization you're from, you literally sit in on the cases and the disciplinaries when teenage pregnancies occurs and it's a teacher who's impregnated a child.
Not only teenage pregnancies.
Yes.
The South African Council for Educators has 3 mandates.
Okay.
The first one being to register every teacher in the country. Let it be known that it's illegal for a teacher to be standing before learners if they're not registered with the council. One. And the second one is to see to their professional development. We administer the so-called continuing professional teacher development system. And the third one is to see to it that the image of the profession is where it's supposed to be. I guess we all know where it's supposed to be.
Where it's supposed to be.
Right on top. And that is where my division comes in that we receive complaints against teachers.
Who launches the complaints against a teacher in that situation?
They can be from any angle. They can be from the media. As and when we see anything on TV, on the news, we take notes and we follow up. Some are reported directly by aggrieved persons. Some are from schools, seldom so. And some are from provincial departments. Some are from the newspapers, the print media. So it's both print media and
any other media, radio, and even social media.
Yes, that's how we get the complaints. And from there we start our investigations.
And can you say that there is an alarming number of cases reported where a school pupil is impregnated by a teacher?
By a teacher, I'll state it at this point to say, by a teacher, they hardly ever tell you it's by a teacher, especially where there's pregnancy consent.
Okay.
Usually along the way, the story changes. We don't have the mechanisms to force them to undertake paternity tests or whatever. Hence, there's some element of protection by learners or the affected parties herein. But yes, there are instances wherein teachers have taken the responsibility in some instances. Some, yes, they had to go through the processes where one would challenge the system and say, no, I want to go for paternity tests, and they come up positive.
You need to go into politics when you're done with this, because you're very diplomatic with your answers. Like you're really like, I'm going to calculate what I'm saying. Maureen, when it comes to sex education in schools, I mean, when I think, let me base it on myself. The last time I had sex education in school, I was in standard 5 and standard 7, and it was basically don't have sex. Has that message changed?
Well, Anele, I think what they have tried to focus on now is mostly around HIV, the stigma, how to prevent it, and so forth. But I feel there is more to what we can give young people. I mean, I think in our heads as individuals, we are thinking sexuality is just around HIV and AIDS. Well, that is not the case. Sexuality is around everything. Their hygiene, different sexual relationships, contraception, the different methods of contraception. Young people need to be highlighted about those as to how and where to get such services and everything like that. So all of those things, that is the information I feel young people need to be taught about. Not necessarily do not have sex, because we all know that is impossible for us to do. We cannot like tie young people to their beds and be like, okay, don't have sex. But at least what we can do as a country is be like, okay, we understand you're going through certain things, but here are the different mechanisms that you can use to protect yourself.
Bongeka, what age are you thinking we should start this education?
Whoa. Like personally or professionally?
No, just professionally, like for you. Because, I mean, you're obviously dealing with teenage pregnancy, and it's mostly fueled by lack of information and, like you were saying, communication. So at what age? At 10, at 12, at 16? Because I was in standard 5, so for me it was 13. Is that the right age?
I think as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Because I think we underestimate how intelligent young people are. We really underestimate that. Okay, be like, no, we'll talk about the birds and the bees, and be like, no, this is what happens. Babies come with stalks, you know. So it's just like, you'd be quite shocked how much young people actually know about, you know.
Okay, let's take a quick break, but stay tuned, because on the other side of this, we carry on our discussion on teen pregnancy and why you should be interested, because in essence, we are all affected. Stay with us. And welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're having a conversation about teenage pregnancies. Let's get real, South Africa, because this is a huge concern for all. I'm with Maureen Mtimkulu, comprehensive sexuality educator, George Moroasui, yo, that's her name, George, representing the South African Council of Educators, and Bongeka Cutshwa, project coordinator for MMOHO, an advocacy organization for pregnant teens. Please, can you just tell me a bit about your organization? So when you say advocacy for pregnant teens, what does that mean?
Okay, so the actual organization is IBIS Reproductive Health, and the project is the MMOHO campaign. So the campaign is the one that deals with teenage pregnancy prevention.
Prevention.
Yes.
So you guys are not there, we take them in and house them and teach them how to take care of their kids. You guys are there solely to decrease the number.
And advocate.
Aha, okay.
For comprehensive
And your
services.
organization, what do they do? Like,
It's the same. I'm with Sam at the same organization.
all right, we've already spoken about yours. Now, during the ad break, George, you were saying to us that you were just picking up from the question, when should we start sexual education for children? And you said you've dealt with cases as early as standard 3.
Standard 3, I think that's
Grade 5.
Grade 5 now. Yeah, we have had so far, I think about 5 cases wherein the learners were in grade 3, grade 3, grade 4, standard 3, standard 4, standard 5.
Yeah.
So you can
imagine that's where we should be starting.
Yeah, it's much earlier. They're already in the know.
Look, the last time I heard of an executive opinion and statement about teenage pregnancies from our president was when he was saying that perhaps we should take pregnant teens to their own place where they can be pregnant there. Okay, we're all shaking our heads, great. So when you hear stuff like that, what, is it for your organization, what do you think, Maureen?
Anele, it's a tricky one, I should say, because you get to schools. I have done research in schools, and you would understand where educators are coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, educators are there to teach. That's why they're there, and that's what they make clear, that they are there to teach, and they're not there to deliver babies and so forth.
And that's happening in schools.
That is the information that we're getting out there. That's the information when you go as a researcher, you find, and you understand and you relate that these people are not entirely trained to deliver babies. So you should understand their frustration when such an incident has to happen at school. All I'm saying is, as an organization, I think where we get in is to actually try to decrease the rates of teenage pregnancy by all means. But I'm thinking with regards to policies and things like that, I think we need to revert back to the government and what the DBE or the government at large, like I said, has to say about that with regards to going through their policies and actually making it clear to all of us how things are supposed to be in schools.
But George, when you're saying that, okay, the pregnant girls must, cannot be at school further than 6 months pregnant or 7 months pregnant, isn't that punishing a girl for an act that took a girl and a boy to do?
When it comes to policies relating to teenage pregnancies in school, that is not our domain. So we are too far from saying until when should a learner be. But there are policies to that effect, and we expect at least a learner to be in school and get an education until such time that she is due to deliver. Okay. So other schools would among themselves say, no, up until 6 months, which we think it's unfair. Because if you say 6 months, when you go to teachers, accepting that they are not trained as midwives, and they've got so much of work to do. They're the ones to say, no, we are not here to deliver. Hence, they would be calling on parents to come and wait at a school gate from month 6 until the child delivers, which we also feel is unfair. So our policies need to be beefed up, tightened up, and at least put into practice. They are not being practiced really the way they're supposed to be practiced.
Bongeka, when it comes, because I know there was outcry, there was a suggestion that they're going to put contraceptives in schools, like condoms and all of that, and there was an outcry from parents. Is that not a bit of a setback when it comes to your organization? Because, having free contraceptives, it's an integral part of what you do, preventing teenage pregnancy.
Yes. No, definitely. But then it comes to the not enforcing what we do as organizations on parents. It comes to having that conversation, to saying, but why do you think you know, having condoms or contraceptives in school available not a good idea? You know, do you think that it's going to promote? Because regardless, you know, young people are having sex, or you know, would you rather have them have unprotected sex, or would you rather know that, okay, my child's having sex, but it's protected sex? So that's another, you know, flip side to the story. So these are the conversations that we try and foster, you know, with the people that we work with, the parents, the civil society.
How do you do this? Do you have workshops at schools and people come, and then there's parents and there's kids and there's you guys? What is the actual action behind your organization?
So the action behind our organization is that we work with different partners, which is the National Teenage Pregnancy Coalition. So this is made up of different partners across the country that work in different aspects of sexual and reproductive health. So we don't work directly with schools up to this far, which is what Maureen works on now, where we're going to be working directly in schools. But as the MMOHO campaign, we work with those partners, and we say, what reach do you have to young people and their parents? And that's what we try and do. We have our media workshops where we try and engage different, you know, as I said, parents, educators, communities, the young people around different sexual and reproductive health issues.
And do you guys work with the education department to make sure that you are reaching every single school in the country to impart this knowledge?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do right now. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to stigma, are you also addressing that? I was going to say attacking that, and I realized it sounds so combative. Are you also addressing that there is stigma around, you know, A, admitting that you're sexually active, and B, getting contraceptives?
Anele, we are trying by all means to obviously target that as well, but we need other people on board actually to help us with this, because it involves, like I said, too many people and too many providers. Because here we are talking about parents, we're talking about young people, we're talking about teachers, we are talking about nurses, clinics, and so forth. So I think everyone should come on board and stand against such things. I mean, it's not a bad thing for a young person to go to a clinic and be like, I'm here for contraception, I'm here for condoms. Young people should feel free enough to go to clinics to get help for whatever reasons they want help for. So I think with regards to stigma, all of us have to stand together and work together as a nation. Otherwise, I don't think it would be one. I think it won't be. We won't be able to deal with it if it's just one-sided. Then it won't work quite well.
George, when it comes to, you know, your counselor and the educator side of things, in schools, is there a counselor to talk to? Okay, sex education, we've discussed that, but let's say now I am pregnant. When I go to school, is there somebody in place that I go and I speak to? Because at most times, and I don't want to bring the big A word in, but you know, the termination of one, surely if I decide I'm pregnant, I'm in standard 7, I want to terminate, there's somebody at school I should be able to speak to.
Let's start with our systems.
Okay.
Are they perfect? We don't have perfect systems. We don't have enough counselors. That's a fact. I won't be speaking for the Department of Education, but I work in schools. I am in schools 70% of my time, and you don't find counselors in our schools. So there isn't enough. It's a call for concern. We wish each school can at least have a counselor or two. But at the moment, we know there aren't enough. So it's a call for concern, so which means our children have got no one to talk to.
Okay, just quickly now, I'm going to divert just outside of teenage pregnancy. You say you work 70% in schools. What is the morale in schools? Because you know there's a country morale that we as adults can feel, right? And you know when we're on a high, you know when we're on a low. I want to see how far it trickles down to children. What's the morale of kids in school?
I seldom interact with kids. If I go there, I go for what I go for. Usually it will be investigating whatever that needs to. I'll interact just with
the parties.
The parties concerned, and then I'll leave the school. But then you get to get the background of a school. Do you have counselors? Those are questions we ask. Do you have counselors? No, we don't have. We once had. We hope to have, and so forth. So the morale when it comes to kids, I seldom interact with learners.
That's actually quite interesting because, you know, as adults, we like to also detach ourselves from like what's happening to us and what's happening to kids. And once again, if adults are having a tough time, if the country's having a tough time, I don't see how kids can be secluded from that. And what do they go to take their minds? Because they also have minds, as much as they're kids, they also have minds. Who do they go to? What do they do to take their minds off what they're going through? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss this one again. Please feel free to join the conversation at Real Talk on 3 on Twitter. Welcome back to Real Talk on SABC3, where the stage is yours. So I said I'd like to hear your views on the topic. If you tweet us at Real Talk on 3, so many of you saying that you never had sexual education. Everything you learned about sex, you learned about on the street, and it's a wonder you got away with not falling pregnant at such a young age. And so many assumptions and questions come to mind as one says teen pregnancy, but of course the why is never that simple, and that's why we're here today. We want to know why. What about that? That there's even adults today who are saying, I never got taught about sex. Do you guys cover those things as well, Maureen?
Anele, well, we have to understand as individuals that we are living in different times.
True.
And we have to take note of that. Whatever we do, especially when it comes to young people, we have to take note that now there is social media. There's so many things influencing young people. I'd say when I was young as well, I didn't get as much. I remember you would do LO, which is not actually
life
orientation, guidance. Yeah. I think it was, they used to call it guidance long before. And sometimes you would even go to play sports, like in that period. Like you weren't actually taught or given information about your sexuality. So I think what the department has tried to do at the present moment is to give them information, but it's a little bit. And as an organization, we are trying now to come on board and be like, okay, let's see how we can help you.
It needs young blood here, because to be fair, when you say department, immediately I think government. When I think government, I think older people who have got older practices and who stuck in there. You shouldn't even be talking to boys' ways, you know? And and this is the thing, the first time your interaction with the boy it's just sex. You know what I'm saying? George, you touched on one thing, and a lot of tweets are coming through on that, is that rural areas need a lot more sex education and a lot more of visits from your side of the world. Do you find that there are higher numbers of teenage pregnancy in rural areas than in suburban areas?
I'm unable to say left or right, but I need to say that in rural areas, most schools that we have been to, you hardly ever find a counselor in there. We hardly ever ask how many are pregnant in here and so forth, but we ask the question, do you have a counselor at the most? But they'll tell you, no, we don't have, we wish we can have. Teachers will tell you themselves, no, we are not equipped to deal with issues of pregnancies in school whenever you ask, because they'll tell you a child is even pregnant, then is there anyone assisting, anyone to attend to this child? They'll tell you, no. Hence they invite the parents to be there for their children, for the duration, for the remaining 3 months.
Okay, Bongeka, when it comes to giving birth and then going back to school, have postnatal depression is a reality? I mean, do you guys even discuss that? And it's something that you're aware of, that at times a teenager will go back to school, if she's even allowed to go back to school, and she's dealing with postnatal depression?
It goes back to saying that we advocate quite strongly for comprehensive sexual and reproductive, health services. It doesn't only involve HIV, doesn't only involve HIV testing, and it involves the comprehensive package. It involves the abortion, the pre and postnatal counseling, just making these services available and knowing that young people or women, it's a human right, they are there and they're available for you to go there. And we need not have these barriers of access to these services, because that's where the problem are the barriers.
Have you been met with retaliation when it comes to abortion by parents and, teachers and all of that?
Yes.
What are their reasons? Now, this is not you speaking, their reasons. Why do they say that they're against something like that?
It's a scarlet A. It's religious. It's very religious. It's cultural, and social standing.
All right. Are there teens who fall pregnant? Because you hear about this a lot. And you know, you never know, is it a myth? Is it us also pulling each other down again? But are there teens that you have come across who fall pregnant so that they can get a grant, a social grant?
Well, Anele, to be quite honest, I haven't actually come across such. Most times, young people would say we love each other, or they think maybe that's a way of them proving to each other that they love each other, that they had sex. So it's different reasons why young people do have unsafe sex. So I think all of those issues need to be explored, and as a country we need to find out all those things that are influencing young people to actually sort of do things for the sake of doing. We need to understand so that we can come then with different mechanisms for them to use and to access.
Okay, I don't know who this question is to, but I must say it, right? Whoever feels like their organization should jump in and speak, you speak. I hear all this education for, you know, prevention of teenage pregnancy, and then, you know, the counseling thereof, and then you going into schools if there's cases like that. But this just means that these are kids impregnating kids. What about older men impregnating teens? Are we doing campaigns? Are we talking to 30-year-old men, 40-year-old men, because they're also doing their fair share of impregnating teens? Who gonna take it?
Can I take from my side?
Yes, please, George.
In our case, let me start with the sad side of things.
Yeah.
What we have discovered is most of the learners that we interact with that are, be it pregnant or sexually active or in a relationship with a teacher, most of them are hungry. So there's the element, the socioeconomic elements come to play. So what we do, much as these are things that will happen when no one is watching, but what we do as a council is to try and run workshops for our teachers. Actually, we should be doing it for both learners and parents and teachers. The Free State used to invite us to talk to the tripartite as learners, teachers, and parents. That's the opportunity we got. But mostly what we do, we run workshops for teachers, just conscientizing them on the code to say, it should not happen, but yes, it is happening in some areas which I will not mention. Parents would literally fight amongst themselves just to have their child have a relationship with a teacher so that they can eat. Some parents, to an extent, will be the first ones to complain to us and will be the first ones to say, no, don't talk to my child anymore. So it's bigger than we think.
Oh, my word.
So it is happening.
So Maureen, when you guys are met with that retaliation, because as much as you want to empower, educate, enlighten, how do you fight hunger? Wow, we all stand.
This is like one challenging topic. There's so many factors influencing to the rates of teenage pregnancy. So can you imagine how deep we have to go in order for us to actually come to a conclusion or solutions to say, but this is what we need to do as a country. So it goes way deeper than we think. It goes as far as young people only just dating or sleeping with older men simply because they can provide. And
there isn't a campaign signaled at older men on some leave school kids alone and let them, because they have an economic power about them, right?
There is no one that I know about, but I think coming from our organization, we are trying to empower young women out there to say, but you don't need a man. We understand that we go through certain things in our lives, but you don't necessarily have to be using your body as such to be getting what you want in life. So that's what I think as an organization, we can just go to as far as empowering young people to be like, but look, this is how you'd rather go about doing this than doing that. That is the only thing that I think at the moment we are able to do.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. George, thank you so much for joining us. You know what, you hit the very core of me by saying we are hungry. You know, I think that's just something else. Time for another break. Do stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll look into the ripple effects that teen pregnancies lead to through the experiences of a young mom who will join our discussion after the break. Come back to us. Welcome back to Real Talk here on SABC3. The stage is yours. Today, we're talking about an issue affecting our young people, and to give you a bit more perspective, we're joined by Segopotso Maleho, who was a teen mother and has managed to turn her life around after the huge blow of falling pregnant while still at school. Welcome to the show. Before I speak to her, so many of you tweeting say you recognize George, who's left the panel. He's gone home now. Now it's just girls. Hey, but lots of you saying you recognize him. He was at your school. He helped you with your issues, and lots of you are saluting him. So, to George and his team, thank you so much, A, for joining us here, and thank you so much for the work that you continue to do. Lady, welcome.
Thank you so much, Anele.
How old were you when you fell pregnant?
I was actually 20. I was not a teen mom, but I was 20 years old. I was in my first year at university.
All right.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about your high school years. What was the sex education like for you in high school?
I actually don't think I had any sexual education in high school. It was minimum,
Yeah.
Even from my parents, we didn't really talk much about sex, and it was a topic that you don't discuss. They don't want to know what you're doing, how you're doing, who you're with, so it was really minimum. I never got much sexual education from a lot of people.
So if you do not have the discussion around sex with your parents, how do you have the discussion telling them that you're pregnant?
Actually, it was so difficult. I kept my pregnancy a secret for 6 months. Yeah, it was really difficult. I couldn't tell them. I was so scared to tell them because of the fact that they didn't even know I was having sex.
Yeah.
So yes, it was really scary. It was a scary time in my life.
I can understand. And what emotions are you going through? Are you considering all your options? Are you like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that? Yeah.
I mean, the first thing I thought of was abortion. I was like, I'm having an abortion. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm having an abortion. I'm in university. My parents are expecting a lot from me. So it's not okay for me to be pregnant at this stage, So I spoke to the father of my child and I said to him, listen, I'm pregnant and I'm going to have an abortion. And he said to me, if you have an abortion, that means our relationship is going to be over. So him having told me that gave me some sort of reassurance that he's going to be there with me. So I kept the baby, but it was a big secret, a big secret. I never told anyone, and I hid it for as long as I could.
And where is he now?
He is a part of his child's life, but me and him are not, we're not together.
Look at that. Is this like a typical story for you that you're hearing right now?
That in most cases, that's what happens, Anele. And with regards to comprehensive sexual education, that's what we are trying to actually sort out as an organization, to say, can we work together collaboratively with the Department of Education and tweak and mold and improve the curricula that they are using at schools, to say, but we feel this is what should be included. We feel this is how this should be said, and so forth. So I think that is what needs to be done.
A lot of SMSs and tweets coming through saying that, not SMSs, I'm lying. Where would you SMS? Look at me making up stories, saying that the treatment that we receive at clinics when we're going to get contraceptive, or perhaps a morning after pill, or like termination, is shocking. So that's why we kept babies, and now we're teen mothers, because rather that be a teen mother than have to deal with that. Is there something you're doing to make sure that clinics are not victimizing young girls?
That's what we're doing, and that's our mandate, as a campaign, as an organization, to say that, we need these services, and can, people not put in place these barriers where young people, or even women, or even men, can access these services, because these services are a right. They are a human right. And for health workers, whether it be frustrations with their jobs, whatever, cultural, religious, just like put that aside, for a bit. Put yourself in that young person's shoes, to say that if I was in this situation and I need to access this abortion, what would I do? Because it's either that, being a teen mom, or accessing illegal services, because then there's that too.
Which is dangerous.
And then we have young people going back into the, the formal system, because things went so wrong in the informal sector, where they accessed things, illegally, and drank things that they weren't supposed to drink. So, yeah.
Segopotso, when you finally tell your parents, what were their questions to you?
I actually told my mom first, and I asked her to tell my father, because I was so scared of him. And he looked you know, he had so many expectations for me and for me falling pregnant in university. I felt like I had failed him. So I told her and she told him, and he didn't speak to me for about a month after that. Whenever I'd walk in the room, he'd walk out. He was really mad at me, whereas my mom was more chilled and she kind of understood the situation and she didn't really ask me much. She didn't talk to me about it. We didn't have a conversation about it. It was just something that it's done now. There's nothing we can do. Yeah.
And when you had unprotected sex with your boyfriend, did you know about morning after pills and all of that stuff?
You know, at that moment, that was the last thing on my mind. I didn't even think of it. I didn't think I'd fall pregnant. It was just me and him having fun, we enjoying this, and we're young and free and wild, and nothing's gonna happen. That is where I was at that stage. Yeah.
In hindsight, and hindsight is terrible when you have a beautiful child. So like, I hate hindsight when you're just like, oh monkey, look at you. But in hindsight, what would you have done differently if you had been given more information? If you had more information at your disposal, better sex education in high school?
You know what? I would have made different choices because I don't think I wanted to have a child. Even now that I've got one, I've told myself that I don't want any more kids. But because I've already had one, it's a thing that it's done now. There's no turning back. And I think I would have made my choices much more differently had I known that, okay, use protection, use prevention, or there's other things that you can do should you find yourself in a certain situation like me having fallen pregnant.
I understand if you're 24 now, ne?
No. My son is actually 7,
Oh,
so I'm 27.
You look 24. Well done. Look at that. You don't crack. But if I think back to the campaigns that were happening when you were in high school, because I'm 33 now and you're 27, it wasn't really angled at pregnancy. It was angled at STIs and HIV. So what were you thinking about that when you were having unprotected sex? Were you ever like under the illusion that you would get it?
I felt that I trusted the person that I was with. And no, I trust him so much, nothing will happen to us. Yeah. So I never ever thought of pregnancy. I never thought of HIV. I just thought, this is young people having fun.
This is young people having fun. What campaigns would you say you've seen where you're like, oh, well, there's one that could be effective?
Well, would I be biased in saying ours?
Oh, yeah, no, not at all. No, not at all.
Well, yeah, I'm going ahead ours.
Okay, and when it comes to messaging, then in one sentence, give me the crux of your campaign, because I don't trust campaigns. I'm just like, no, I know, and it's bad of me, because I'm just like, hey, guys, because we're all tiptoeing around this discussion, and the only way I see teen pregnancy going down is if we can talk about sex openly without making it taboo, and we're all going, hi. When we sit and we talk about sex like that. So is that your campaign?
I'll give you a tagline. MMOHO, planning teens' bright futures.
Planning teens' bright futures.
Yep.
I like it, but it's still very Obama, yes we can. Do you know what I'm saying? It's still very in the air there. For you, what campaigns have you seen that you think, okay, fine, we're working with that?
There are different campaigns I've seen around. I don't know if I should mention any, but let me just stay away from that.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Anele. We need to stop sugarcoating things.
Nah.
We need to realize that these are young people. They do have sex. Now, what's the plan? Don't think as a parent your child is not having sex. You don't know that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of you sitting your child down and be like, okay, let's talk. Let's see how we can help you. Let's see how we can protect you. Because I think parents always thinking young people don't do things. That's not the truth. And then you get the shock of your life. When certain things happen in your child's life, you're like, oh my gosh, but I didn't know. Of course. But you need to stop thinking they don't know this, they don't know that. They know a whole lot of things. They will tell you like so many things about sexuality, but I think also coming from their parents, it's a good thing, you know, being able to talk about it at home and be like, but mom, you know, being like, okay, boys, here are condoms, girls, this is what you should do, you know. I think, like I said, we all have to take responsibility, we all have to play a part so that we can be able to help young people. Otherwise, I just think this is just going to be like, you know,
I think that's what must start at. When the show ends today, that's the first thing you must do. You sit your kids down and you have an earnest conversation with them. With the number of teens getting pregnant not going down despite campaigns to prevent them, we need to reflect on the socio-economic and other deep-seated issues that young people face that are not being dealt with. This is Real Talk, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the last stretch of the show. We've been talking teen pregnancies in South Africa, and the numbers are on the rise. So, I mean, you know, once you're pregnant, then you're pregnant. But what we're trying to do is, you know, get the, I don't want to call it infection rate. What is it called? What's the rate of teenage pregnancies? That's what we'll call it. Segopotso, I want to come to you. Did you go to varsity whilst you were pregnant?
Yes, I did. I actually fell pregnant in my first year at varsity, my first 4 months in varsity. That's when I fell pregnant. So I hadn't even finished my first semester yet, and I was pregnant.
And then, okay, so...
And then I continued for the year, and then I gave birth at the end of that year, and then I put my studies on hold after my son was born. And for a year, I was at home with him, you know, getting to know what being a mother's all about. It was difficult. It was not easy. I used to watch my friends go to varsity and post things on Facebook and have girls' nights and, you know, this and that. And I couldn't join them because I was stuck at home as a mom. I put my studies on hold for a year, and then I went back to go study.
Went back.
Yes.
And the communication between you and your parents now, is it a lot more open than it was when you were a teen?
It is a lot more open, yes. We can have conversation, especially with my mom. I mean, my dad is an African man, so there is still that thing about us being able to communicate. I can't even tell him, oh, I've got a new boyfriend, if I had one, not that I have one, but I wouldn't even be able to tell him that, oh, listen, this is so-and-so, I can't even bring this guy home. The only guy that they do know is the father of my son.
Because there's that relationship.
Yes.
Are there classes, I don't want to say support groups, but because also there's only so much your parents know as well, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like it's a chain. You know, their parents didn't speak to them about sex, and their parents didn't speak to them about sex. And you know, there's certain words, there's certain phrases, there's certain ways you should be speaking to your children about it. So do you guys cover that as well?
We do cover that as well.
Okay,
Yes.
so parents can come and learn from you guys as to how to have a free conversation with their children. That is amazing.
Yes. And that is from the young people that we work with. That's why the young people spearhead the information that they would like to get. It's not us telling them that you need to know this, you need to have teen parent support, you need to have this. It's them saying that, you know what, we want to know more about abortion. We want to know, where do teen parents go? You know, is it you know, you're not, in inverted commas, doomed to start working and not go back to school. It's like, where do we go for support as teen parents, as young people? What do we then do? How do we speak to parents? How do we speak with guardians? Because maybe some may not live with their parents, they live with guardians, or, you know, so, yeah.
Maureen, today, if there's a parent watching, and as soon as, you know, our credits roll, and they want to go and have a conversation with their kids about sex, about teen pregnancy, about STIs, about HIV, what's their opening line?
Anele, I think with this one as well, it depends on the different relationships that parents have with their teens or children. But I think as parents, put aside what you think you know about your child. Stop being judgmental. Don't go to your child thinking already your child is doing certain things. I think it goes back to parents wanting to find out about what's happening in their children's life, and actually just putting all these things, like they should just stop being judgmental, stigma, everything should just be put aside. Because I mean, as a young person, you would also not talk to your mother if you know how your mother is going to react, right? So I think it starts there, where parents actually allow that platform where young people will be able to talk to them about sexual issues and things to relating to all of that. So I think we need to stop being judgmental. I think we need to stop overreacting. I think we need to understand the times that we're living in as parents at the present moment, and be like, okay, this is what I might get. Okay, well, this is how I think I should react. Okay, this is, you know, because I think with me, imagine if I had to conversate with you and I know how you would react, or I know how you've said Sam shouldn't do like certain things. I mean, I'm gonna be like, okay, no, I need to step back and distance myself from that particular person, because what they see or how they think is totally different from how I would want them to be. So I think it starts there with relationships with our kids. And I think as parents, for me, I think it would be nice for your own children to be able to talk to you. So I think parents should maintain that. Maintain that. As much as there's social media, as much as there's internet, maintain the relationship that you want with your kids? Do you want your kids to be able to talk to you? Then maintain that kind of a relationship. Don't be the monster in the house or the judgmental person in the house. Maintain that. Make room for them. Understand where they come from, and please don't come with in my times, but the times are different. Hello, the times are different. So please relate to the times the teens are living in right now, and stop saying that when I was a child or when I was a teenager, because the times are totally different. And I think as parents, we need to start there. Relationships, they are important.
Segopotso, you're now raising, a boy who's going to become a young teenage boy and who's going to become a man. When it comes to you and your parenting methods, when you're looking at sex education, what's your approach going to be?
At this moment, it's a bit scary to even think about my son.
Know, right?
He's only 6, turning 7, and to think that someday he's going to be 17 and he's going to be having sex with a girl is very scary. But I think I'm going to have an open relationship with him, because I cannot imagine my 15-year-old son being a father to a child. I cannot even imagine. I was 20, but I was never ready. So I cannot imagine another 15-year-old girl with my son, having a baby. So I will have an open relationship, definitely, and talk to him about it. And like someone said earlier, these kids know things. Yeah. He's in grade 1, but he comes home and he tells me things that he hears from his friends at school. And so they do know things. They don't understand the context of what they know, but they do know something.
Start now. Just easy, like just every now and then, just like start like, oh look, they're kissing. Do you know what that is? No, really, we laugh, but I really think we should just like take the chains that have been like put around us as kids, as young black kids, where you're like, oh, Samantha was talking to her mom and they were talking about sex, and then and your mom's like, I told her when you. Do you know what I'm saying? We need to stop that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was absolutely enlightening. That's all we have time for today. A big thank you to my guests, Maureen Mtimkulu, George Moroasui, who's left, Bongeka Cutshwa, as well as Segopotso Maleho. The numbers are real, South Africa. We need to start having open conversations with our children around sex and sexuality. Remember, on another note, to enter our weekly competition where you can walk away with an e-gift voucher. It's worth 5,000 Rand. The details are on the screen. The winner will be announced tomorrow. Join me again, same time, same place, for another exciting episode. From me, Anele, it's a good night. Bye.